Hey, I'm Tracy Lobertini, and we're back with Scott Fields.
Hello.
And Scott is from Deerfield / McLeod Mountain.
That's right.
Deerfield on Norris Lake is the one place most people know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're at a boat show or anytime we're talking about Norris Lake, people will say, is that close to Deerfield? Like, that's the center, and that's the sun, and everything revolves around it. Simply because it was one of the first, I don't want to say planned developments because it's not a PUD, but it was one of the first developments that didn't just happen on Norris Lake, that it was planned.
That's right. And
so tell us a little bit about how it started.
My mom and dad were always real estate developers. We came to East Tennessee. They purchased Springs Dock, and we moved the family here to take care of the dock. And, Dad was still dabbling in real estate. Bought what is now known as Alder Springs Village just about the time that the interest rates went through the roof before. Didn't develop much on it, kind of got out of it, but just kept longing to be in real estate. Sam Claiborne owned a big plot of property that we call Deerfield, and approached my dad to sell it for him. He found out he was sick. So he brought the listing to my dad. My dad said, no, I think I'll just buy it. He then brought it home that night, told my mom at the dinner table, said, well, I bought Sam Claiborne's property today.
She was tickled.
She said, kids, go to the room and eat dinner. So it's all.
I love your mom. It's no secret. I love your mom, loved your mom. I have a quote of hers hanging in my office that you so kindly, graciously made me a sign of. But I bet she was a little fiery.
She was mad. It took about 3 days, and she finally looked at Dad and said, all right, take me out and show it to me, where she wound up working until her last days on Earth. Just loving every minute of it.
I think, honestly, her heart was in it as much or more than your dad's.
Absolutely.
As it grew.
Yeah.
It was her.
And she would tell Dad, okay, we're opening up this new section, but I don't want you selling any of it. He'd say, well, why don't you want me selling it? Because you'll sell it too cheap. Back in those days, we were selling lakefront lots for $25,000 and $30,000.
And people probably not believing you could get that. Yeah. The locals certainly didn't believe you could get that. They
actually sent the sheriff sent a deputy out to ride around with my uncle to quiz him. What are you doing to make these people pay this kind of property for land out in the middle of nowhere?
On that old lake bank,
on
that old lake bank. I remember going out. Well, I've got so many stories about your mom. We could never get through the whole Deerfield thing if I kept telling them. But I would go out there, and you know where the little, I call it a well house, but when you take that hard curve just past where we sold the lot. I'm trying to think. If you come past the condos and you take that really hard curve, and there's a little blue.
Yes.
Looks like a Scandinavian house.
We call it the church house.
The church house.
Because we found a moonshine still in it from the original owner.
I love it. So I remember before cell phones, trying to find your mom. And with my mother-in-law, Lucy, we drove out there, and we found her out there planting flowers and landscaping all that area around there herself. Yeah. Down on her hands and knees, in the dirt, planting flowers. I mean, you have a hands-on, literally hands-on.
The first jobs I did out there is I was in middle school helping her do landscaping around a condo building.
Yeah. So. Yeah, she was all hands in.
Back in those days, you could find people to do it for you, but they didn't do it good enough.
Yeah, she knew how she wanted it. So once they decided what to do, I have always heard that the Cincinnati Boat Show was integral, that they went with maybe I've heard the story, 2 folding chairs and a card table and a map, and sold every lot that they had designed to sell.
And everybody would come in and say, well, what is there to do there? Well, we've got the lake. Well, don't you have a swimming pool? Don't you have a restaurant? So as soon as they came back that spring from the boat show, they broke ground on a swimming pool and a restaurant. Next boat show, we took pictures and models and took it up, and it's just all history from there.
Yeah.
I think we went with the second year we had maybe 2 rental houses and some lots again to sell.
People tell me their stories when they come to Norris Lake, and they say, we came here as a kid. This was their summer vacation, just like ours was to the beach. But they would always say, we made so many good memories at Deerfield. And even now, we were just at the boat show a few months ago, and lucky enough to be sitting lucky enough to each other, next to each other. And so many people tell me about their, losing their first tooth, and they were at the lake at Deerfield. You know, there's so, and especially with the condos, how many front doors? How do you all refer to your units or houses?
It's closing in on maybe 515, and that's including condo units. We have some hangar home sites, but yeah, about 515 to 520 front doors.
Golly.
Um,
And just because your dad saw the vision and your mom didn't kill him.
I asked him several times, did you ever envision this much? He said, no.
He really didn't.
Beyond my wildest dreams.
Oh,
we expected cabins.
okay.
2, 3-bedroom cabins is what we were building. Today we've got houses that are 12,000 square feet, 9 bedrooms, that are used as vacation homes. They don't rent them. They just come in and use them on the side.
So what was I know a little bit of the lay of the land at Deerfield, but not a lot. If I'm standing in your office, in your parking lot of your office, what was the first street developed, or where would I go to the first oldest houses?
Big Pine Point.
Okay, where is that from your office?
From the office, you'd come out of the parking lot to the right.
Okay.
On the divided road. And Big Pine Point was, Dad had a friend from Kentucky, Doyle Hill, that every time he opened up a new development, Doyle had to be there. And in Deerfield, every section, Doyle would buy in that new section and build a house. And his was the first there. And I remember they had broken ground on it. And Dad had a big pig roast. And it was in the yard next to Doyle Hill's house. And we had several people show up. There was a lot of properties sold that day. I've even heard crazy stories. I had someone tell me not long ago that they were out on Norris just cruising around back when there was nobody on the lake. And they said they saw this guy waving his arms and waving a flag. They pulled over to this boat and said, are you stranded? He said, no, let me take you up here and show you some property. And he says it was my dad. But I have a hard time believing it.
Well, I have a similar story. I was on a houseboat. Lucy was performing a wedding. Your mom had taken us out on a houseboat with these people that wanted to get married on the water. Had a house there. And the boat quit working. And we didn't have any cell phone. We had to wait for your dad to get home to notice she wasn't home. And then send somebody out to look for us because there was nobody waiting. I thought we could wave somebody down, but it was middle of the day. We're talking late 80s. And there was nobody on the water. And when you tell those stories, people just don't believe that there was a time when there was nobody on this lake.
There were so many times. Dad, probably about 88, bought a Gibson houseboat. Big creek. Yeah, probably was with a flying bridge, and that was our office. We'd go to it every day. People would pull up, ask what was going on. We'd pitch them property. Then at night they would take people like to Shanghai for dinner. Back when it was a different dock, we'd all go out to dinner. I'd hang out in the bottom watching TV or whatever, and it was a different day.
It was totally different. So let's go back to as the development. How did they decide to open areas? Like I know that there would be this area, and then once that kind of got built up, there would be another one, and then another one. How was the decision made? Like, okay, now this is the next least steep terrain, or this is the next easiest place to put a road, or
more or less, and for wherever it was convenient. We kind of started at Big Pine and worked our way around from there.
Okay.
I'll never forget, Dad would always say, we had 1,000 acres we were developing, and you'd spend all day showing people around each of the sections that were open and some lots that had come available again. And he'd always say, someday they're going to come to you and say, what do you got left? Well, we've been there for quite a few years now.
Especially for Lakefront.
Yeah, Lakefront we've been out of for 20 years.
Lakefront, I mean, anywhere, but especially Deerfield. So what prompted the airstrip?
We had, beside of my office is a big flat piece of land that the previous owner, Sam Claiborne, used for his own private airstrip, just a dirt strip. He had a hangar, which is where we wound up building the swimming pool. People started coming in that were pilots. They would land to go to their vacation home. And as time went on, we realized that we really needed that piece of land as access road, because we'd have to shut it down on both ends long enough for a plane to land. So he took the worst piece of property he could find, which was on the backside, up high on the hill. Went out and bought equipment, hired operators. It was easy that day because you had coal miners that were coming out of the coal mines, retiring, and they were looking for jobs on the side. So he bought a D8 and a D9 dozer, some dressers, a couple big pans, and literally moved mountains to build that airstrip.
And that's one of the places you really don't have a good lake view up there.
You do from some of the condos, but from the strip itself,
yeah.
And it would have never had a good view.
Right, so that wasn't a huge loss for what you gained.
And this when the airstrip was finished, when I ran a sheep's foot on it and packed dirt. I mean, we just did a little bit of everything. But when all that was finished, the equipment sat there for about a year and looked around and said, we've got enough equipment to do it. Let's build a golf course. So off went the golf course. That was a major undertaking, but we did 100% of the labor on it.
I mean, it's a great golf course, and people tell me all the time that play almost anywhere that's.
It's very challenging. Bobby Clampett designed it. He was on the PGA Tour.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to tell people, leave your driver in the car the first time you play it, because it's tight, it's hilly, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there, again, where can you go in rural Appalachia and have a lake, an 18-hole golf course, an airstrip, and some of the nicest people that you're ever going to meet?
So all of our advertisements always say, on a lake in the mountains with an airstrip and a golf course. So on the golf course, you can fly in. We'll pick you up at the airstrip. You can boat in. We've got arrangements with the marina to pick you up, or you drive in.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what you've done. And I know you're not self-serving. Your parents definitely aren't self-serving. Your sister's not. But how much money has Deerfield brought into this county?
At one time, I was told that it was 25% of the local economy, the local tax base. I don't think it's that much today. There's a lot more going on, but yeah, it's
huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. And the people who move in to Deerfield don't really use a lot of the infrastructure of the county. They're not, typically they're retirees. They don't have kids in school. They're not, they're just not using a whole lot of the resources.
If I'm not mistaken, my youngest son is the only kid that's in the local school system. We use the county roads to get to Deerfield, but they're all private after that. They're all funded from within. So the county gets a lot of benefit without us taking much.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of things that I know about that you all do in Deerfield, but there's probably a lot that I don't. So I know you do the 5K and you do a scholarship for a local student, but you guys do other stuff as a community.
There are so many unsung heroes out there that do things, and I ask them if I can promote them, and they're like, "No, I don't. I'm not doing it for recognition." But we have so many people involved in Habitat for Humanity in big ways, and it's just always an outreach. Everything that we do, we don't personally. My family doesn't do the 5K. That's kind of a group within that just do it for the love of the kids in the community.
Well, you used to do a golf cart parade.
Yeah.
Do you still do that?
That was some kids down on the end of Deerfield Way that were bored one 4th of July. Their parents were trying to figure out something for them to do, so they said, decorate up the golf carts. And they called and said, can we shut down the road for just a little while? I said, sure. And they had a parade. And it's been going on, more than 15 years now.
I love it. And then the fireworks. You guys have the fireworks there. 4th of July.
Yeah, that's all funded from within the resort.
You guys have a hangar ministry.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. When you put good people together, good things happen.
Absolutely.
It always does. What else do we not know about Deerfield that we need to know?
It's things that people do know. At least 80% of the residents are from Ohio. When we started working boat shows, we went all over. We went to Indianapolis, Michigan. We went to Washington, D.C., gave away a log house in their big center. But we never got traction anywhere but Cincinnati. And, it makes sense because it's an easy 3.5-hour drive from Cincinnati.
It's a Friday night or a Thursday night, spend Friday, Saturday, and go home on Sunday.
So it's the perfect distance. We're not pulling people from the South. People from the South go to the mountains. People from the North, Ohio is one of the only states that has no naturally occurring body of water. The ones that they build are small. So Lake Cumberland is not a place where you go stay on the lake. You stay either directly on it in a houseboat or several miles out. Norris is set up perfect. I mean, you're in a house on the water with a dock.
Having the dock where you can pull right up is what people want.
Yeah.
That's what everybody talks about when they've not been here and then they come.
And all of our promotion materials that we take to the boat shows, the people that are used to Corps of Engineer links are just shocked to see these photos of docks.
Right, out in front of it. They just love it. And once they come, they're hooked. You know my friend Don Claiborne.
Your friend that I grew up with.
My friend that you grew up with your whole life. So coming out of Deerfield last year, so this is 2023, so this would have been 2022. Somehow I found myself in Deerfield the Friday before Memorial Day. I think I've told you the story. The Friday before Memorial Day at 5 o'clock. Well, having grown up on Demery Road, which is also a lake access road to Shanghai, Sugar Hollow, Whitman Hollow, you just don't want to be on that road right at 5 going against the grain with all the boaters coming in. So I was leaving Deerfield, and I remember looking on my dash and thinking, how did you end up here at 5 o'clock on the Friday before Memorial Day? This is nuts. And I'm driving out, and I pass a truck pulling a trailer. I pass another truck pulling a trailer. I passed 5 trucks pulling trailers at that time of day, on that day specifically, on that holiday weekend. Not a one of them had a boat, but they all had side-by-sides behind them. And I came into town and I called Don Claiborne and I said, "You don't believe what just happened." And I told him the story. And I said, "Would you have ever believed I could tell you that?" And he said, "Well, the boats are probably already there." And they brought their side-by-sides because it's going to be cold this weekend and they want to play in the mountains. And I said, "But still yet, why is Deerfield pulling the side-by-side traffic?" So can you explain it, sir? Can you explain this to me?
We advertise that way. I mean, Deerfield, you're allowed to ride a golf cart or side-by-side around on our roads, on the private roads. But, I try to tell everybody, there's more than just one season here. It's not just lake season, it's mountain season. And you ride in the mountains any time of the year, but when boating is unfriendly, the mountains are perfect.
Well, October to May, people are in the mountains. Yep. May to October, they're on the lake, typically. But I'm just shocked. And of course, you're not very far from Tackett Creek to that entrance to that trail. How far would you say that is? 5 miles, 6 miles? I don't know.
About 6 miles.
I don't have a clue, but it's not far enough not to go. But it just shocked me.
But, and right now I've still got a lot of people coming in just to ride 4x4s in the mountains. Mm-hmm. But come Memorial Day, that's over.
Yeah, they're going to be on that water.
Yeah.
What do you think? I hear North Lake's too busy, it's too crowded. Well, to you and I, of course, is because we're used to seeing 4 boats on a Saturday. But I don't know, other than holiday weekends, when it's ever really too busy.
Holiday weekends are ridiculous. I don't try to get out. I don't take my boat out. Outside of that, during the week, we can go on the lake in the middle of July on a Tuesday and see 4 other boats.
And in August, there's nobody there. You couldn't start a fight. There's not enough people to start a fight. I'm shocked, but I think when school starts back, especially in Ohio, or when people start sports training or sports practices and that kind of thing, those are the folks that have to kind of orient back home. Right. And so that's a great time for the locals or for people that don't have kids in school to enjoy Norris.
And like I say, all summer long, come during the week.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoy the week. On the weekends, maybe go up in the mountains.
Yeah, enjoy something different. Well, the lake is, and I say this all the time, and I say this every time we do this, every little pocket of the lake has its own culture, its own feel, every marina. So, which on the spot, rapid fire, what are your favorite things to eat at the marinas? You're like me. I can tell you, and I'm really bad to order the same thing everywhere I go. If I like at Shanghai, they used to have like a grouper sandwich or something. I don't remember what it was. I loved it. But then I transitioned to pizza, fish tacos at Powell Valley, Flat Hollow. They've got a burger that I love. Tell me what you like to eat on the lake.
I still love Shanghai. Shanghai's barbecue is really good.
Really?
Powell Valley, since they changed ownership a couple years ago, has really come on strong.
Oh,
the
yeah.
tacos are incredible.
The fish tacos there are delicious. Sequoia, I always did the Corona and wings, but lately, since I've gone, they've had some wraps that were really, really good. And I don't drive a boat real well, so most of the time when I refer to a marina, it's like, how easy is it to park? Or where's their parking? How easy is it to get into? So Twin Cove is pretty easy to park, and I love their food. But I go there by car more than I go by boat because I've got that little bitty pontoon, and to get down there takes forever.
We love when you do the wing nights.
I love
Indian
the wing
River,
nights.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's their big thing is we always compare who has the best wings on the
Yeah,
lake.
and I do. It was like my sister and her husband, wherever they travel, they eat Chinese food and compare it. No matter where it is that they go, they like to eat Chinese food. I think your wings, you take them. Now, at Spring Stock, I get the galley burger.
Yeah.
And I love the soft serve ice cream, of course.
Springs is absolutely the best burger in the lake.
It is.
They buy the meat the same place I do. I don't know what they do to it, but it's amazing.
Well, it's phenomenal. Blood Hollow has a great burger. Shanghai, everything's good. And they've got a great store. If people want to buy, like, stuff, yeah, that is. Sugar Hollow, I've not eaten there the last couple of years. I've gone there and had a couple of drinks, but I've not eaten there.
They keep a crowd.
Do you ever jump off the bridge?
Oh, yeah. I used to jump off the bridge back when it was the old metal bridge off of the...
I said that the other day. Philip Mosher's was in here. We were talking. I said, do you remember when it had the metal, like it was the suspension, like the metal? And he said, no. And I thought, oh, that's because you're a baby and you're half my age. And that's why Stacy Bostic, I remember those guys diving off the top.
I was up on top one day and I looked down and I saw my dad coming. And I just kind of looked up at the sky and waited until he passed. I got home that night and he said, you're not going to believe what I saw today. Some idiot was on top of the bridge ready to jump off. It's crazy people.
Crazy people. People don't have any sense. But it used to be a different bridge. And we have a picture of that next door of that bridge, the way it was. But
it was just too low. Every spring it would flood. You couldn't cross it.
Yeah.
It was basically one lane. So
it needed. Well, there was the same type of bridge out here, what they call now Goat Rock Bridge, like you're going over Highland. And it would clack when you drive over it, clickety, clackety, clickety, clackety. And now I think, gosh, we were really brave to do all this stupid stuff that we did. But
I always like to tell everybody, I personally don't. If you're going to jump off a bridge, wear a seatbelt.
Yeah, wear your seatbelt.
If you're going to jump off a bridge, wear your life jacket. I'm the old guy that'll stop on the bridge and say, please put on your life jacket. Go between the pillars. Yeah. As long as you do those two things, it's good, clean fun.
Yeah, but just don't be silly. Well, I was talking to somebody else earlier, and I told them I have a healthy respect for the lake. Having grown up here and knowing people have drowned, and just hearing the rescue squad go out the road. I mean, you've heard it. And so when I get in the water, I either have a ski belt, I have a life jacket. Even if I'm just getting on the float for a few minutes or to cool off, I put something on. Now, everybody else doesn't do that, and you don't have to. That's what I do because and I'm a strong swimmer. I was a lifeguard. I swim all the time. But I'm still afraid of the lake. I think it's a healthy fear.
A healthy respect is a great thing to have.
Yeah, because I go on the boat every chance I get. I go into a cove every chance I get and float and relax. But I do know that this lake can be dangerous.
There will be usually a couple of deaths every year, and it's usually related to something silly, somebody just made a bad decision. Yeah. And it almost 100% of the time they didn't have a life jacket on.
Yeah. And if you just have that, we were talking about that earlier with somebody else and just in general about the lake, but it's so deep. Mm-hmm. And it's, I said, if those sunglasses are gone, they're gone to the bottom of that. What do you think about all the controversy with it's the wakeboards, it's the surfers, it's the it used to be the jet skis were the nuisance. Remember when the jet skis, everything.
It always comes back to the driver.
Mm-hmm.
It's the driver being somewhere he shouldn't be, doesn't realize he has his ballast full. I drive a surf boat. I'll never rock your dock because I respect it.
Right.
And it's either beginner drivers, sometimes it's visitors that don't know any better, and there almost needs to be. If you launch a boat, you need to sign a piece of paper that says, be respectful, stay 300 feet away from docks. But no, there are plenty of places on the lake. If we're going surfing, we go to Loyston.
Yeah. Well, any of these places with the green, you're not going to have private docks. Right. So just go close to there or go into those little coves. But no, I agree. I think it's more but it's funny because I'm going to say 15 years ago, everybody was mad at the jet skis. They're getting too close to the boat. They're getting too close to. other drivers. And a lot of times it was kids.
Yeah.
And a kid that's 13, 14 years old, they're not going to make the same decision as a 50-year-old person, which is probably good.
Thankfully today, if you're born after maybe 85, you have to get a boater's license.
Yeah.
And they do. They seem to teach some courtesy. Courtesy's 90% of the problem on the lake.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And a lot of times I do think you're right. It's people not knowing, like not realizing what, we're looking over here, checking this and not realizing how close we're getting to it.
And maybe they've never sat on a dock and gotten their teeth knocked out.
Yeah, boom, 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 yeah. But it's an amazing place. Where's your favorite place to just go hang out on the water?
I'm still a sucker for the bridge area, and I like to go over to Lewiston.
Mm-hmm. We don't go to Lewiston that much, probably because I've got that little bitty motor on my pontoon. It would take me, I'd have to spend the night at Sequoia.
I will say that I think, without a doubt, the prettiest area of the lake is up around Powell Valley.
I think so too.
You come up that channel with the mountains in the background. There's just
it looks like something that's a movie set or something. It doesn't even look real. But I love that area from that place on, and then even back up in here, like we're where am I trying to think? Like I can't think of it. Blue Springs. Yeah, I guess. I don't know where I'm talking about. But on up there around Powell Valley, that's just a more tranquil, and there's not as much development.
Not at all. Going up toward Union County, Marina, just like tell everybody in the spring to be careful because there's some like the Hog's Back. It's marked on most maps. It's just under the surface of the water. There aren't many places like that on Norris. And most of them are marked by buoys.
Well, there's that little place as you're coming around the corner back toward Shanghai, coming in Deerfield. Just where we were standing the other day.
Yeah.
There's that one little point, but it's marked with buoys.
Yeah, it has like 4 buoys out
there.
Yeah,
and you really see it.
You have to really want to be in the wrong place to
get that one. Well, and that's the thing too. Also, coming the further up you get back toward here, I think you get a little bit more debris because it's coming so far down. You get a lot of the logs and the sticks and the things in the water. And in the spring, those logs can look just like the water. You have to really be aware until it sort of settles down.
I always say don't go barreling down the lake at full speed until after Memorial Day.
Well, when everybody else has knocked it to the shore.
And usually they'll bring it up above full pull at 10:20. They'll bring it to like 10:23. Then when it recedes, a lot of the stuff sticks to the banks.
And that kind of takes care of it yourself. All right. Is there anything that we need to know about Deerfield that we don't know?
No, it's Deerfield is probably the largest, the most developed, the most amenities on Norris Lake. We're very proud to have been a part of it.
One more question. What was the discussion about the name? Deerfields with the fields. Was that just something your mom came up with?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we're sitting at the dinner table one night coming up with names, and Mom or Dad once said, it's covered with deer. It's, our name is Fields. Let's just call it Deerfield.
I love it.
Stuck.
And the deer are plentiful.
Yeah, it's funny. We were going through some soil maps the other day, going through different folders, trying to find some for somebody. And a lot of the names of the streets at the time that they were surveyed are different today. But I'll never forget riding on the back. Dad had a CJ5. And we were riding up what today is known as Little Fawn. And I found that map the other day, and it was a completely different name. I don't recall what it was. But I remember this Little Fawn ran under my feet. I was standing on the back of the Jeep. And they said, "Oh, Little Fawn, that's what we'll call the street."
Oh, I love it.
Just kind of named them on the fly as we went.
I love it. Well, they did a great job. And I know you're so proud to be the son of Paul and Madeline and to carry on, and the brother to Paula, and to carry on as the dad.
We're just trying to carry on the legacy. I mean, we've done this my whole life. Like I say, when Deerfield was started, I was in middle school. Today, I'm 52 years old, and still there taking care of the place. And it's part of my DNA.
Well, it is. It's the legacy that your family left, and what a wonderful legacy they left.
Yeah.
I know you tried to carry it on.
Absolutely. So.
Well, thanks so much for talking to us.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me.